Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining. We'll get started in just a few minutes as everyone is still joining in. My name is Dua. I'm the Training and Learning Program Manager here at Tempo, and my main focus is really making sure that you get the most out of these sessions. So, really looking forward to your feedback in our post-webinar survey. With me to answer your questions is one of our onboarding specialists, Cheryl. And like I said, feel free to utilize that question box throughout. She will be answering your questions there. Another member of our amazing onboarding specialist team, Cody, will be our main presenter for this webinar. Okay. And in today's session, we'll focus on all the admin tasks that come with managing your roadmaps, like managing team roles and permissions, the difference between roadmap and account level fields, as well as some best practices for managing and creating portfolio roadmaps. Before I pass it on to you, Cody, I'm going to just quickly mention that I'm sure some of you have already noticed the new Roadmunk or the Roadmunk's new table view, and you will get firsthand access to it and firsthand knowledge with today's demo. Cody will point out some of the areas that we'll see today that have changed, but for a more comprehensive look at all of the updates, I do encourage you to attend our webinar on October 26th. That's our next session, and we'll be highlighting a lot of these changes more clearly. Okay, and I think we're at a good number with attendees, so I will pass it on to you, Cody.
Thank you very much, Dua. So as Dua mentioned, today's session is on the account admin training. So we're going to be letting you know certain aspects of the role as an account admin, including how you can add and manage your users, as well as teams, how you can manage those user roles and permissions, the 3 pillars of Roadmunk governance, which are some best practices to ensure your team's set up for success. We're going to talk about custom template building, portfolio road mapping, how everything kind of goes together into a portfolio. And then as Dua mentioned, there'll be plenty of time at the end for Q&A. So I'm going to go out of full screen here and just let you know that for this training, we usually go back and forth between the slideshow and we go into Roadmunk itself. That way, we're not just talking about what you're capable of doing, we'll also show it as well. So in terms of managing your team, as I mentioned earlier, your role as an account admin is ensuring that your team is set up for success. You have a collaborator type license, but you have that enhanced administrator capabilities within the application. A collaborator is able to create roadmaps and be owners of roadmaps. They can also be added to roadmaps for editing purposes, as well as they can be set for view-only access as well. Whereas a reviewer's license are those individuals who have view-only access or more of a read-only license, where they're able to visualize a roadmap they've been added to, as well as comment on it. So in terms of managing these different user roles and permissions, as I mentioned, if you're going to be an account admin or a collaborator, you'll be able to share your roadmaps with your teammates. You'll be able to transfer ownership of the roadmap, so you can give somebody else access to the roadmap. And as well as that, an account admin has full access to all roadmaps. So they're essentially going to be an owner on everyone's roadmap, which is a really great approach, especially as you can see here, in terms of deleting roadmaps, in case you have users who are no longer with the company or no longer utilizing the tool, you'd be able to take ownership of those roadmaps there. So now in terms of adding a user, I'm going to walk you through the steps in order to do so. And in addition to that, the next slide here is talking about how you can manage teams. So I'm going to go into the account settings, show you how to add and manage your users, show you how to create a team, as well as talk about some of the other permissions here. So let's just switch over to Roadmunk. And within the Roadmunk application, you would go to the bottom left of the screen here, and you would see your account settings. Within the account settings, this is going to be your profile page where you can set all this information up, not just for yourself, but how you can manage users and teams as well. In terms of your profile, so this is where you would set up, you give yourself an avatar, make sure that your name and role is set up. In addition to that, one thing I always like to highlight within the profile tab is if you switch over to email notifications, I would highly recommend that not just yourselves, but ensure that your team has this set up. For example, if someone's commenting on your roadmap or mentioning you on a roadmap, it's a much better process to ensure that you get an email notification so you know to come onto Roadmunk rather than having to go onto Roadmunk and see if you have any notifications. So by having the email notifications set up, it's going to ensure that you have better team collaboration. By switching over from the profile tab here at the top to the users tab, this is where you would be able to add a new user. So you'll see here that I have a few collaborators and reviewers within my account. It's a really easy process. If you go to the top right here, you'll see invite user. And here, what you need to do is provide an email as well as select what role you're going to give this individual. So I'm just going to add one of my friends here, just to kind of show you that process. And now that I added Clark, oops, let's adjust that. Now that I added Clark, you'll see here that you need to select that role for that individual. So again, if I gave Clark the account admin access, they would also be able to go within the account and set up the rest of the team for success. But in this case, I would like to give Clark the collaborator's license. But just in case I accidentally gave him a reviewer's license and invited them, you'll see now that I have to switch over from the collaborator tab to the reviewers tab. And you'll see here that Clark has that reviewer access. But as I mentioned, I want to provide them with collaborator access. So just in case you have added some users and you didn't select the proper role for that, you can easily make that adjustment, go to the very top and select save. Now, by doing this, I'm able to send Clark back to the collaborator tab. So this is not only an easy process to add your teammates, but you can easily make the changes in case you accidentally selected the wrong role there. So now that we've added a user, I want to show you that if you switch from users to teams, you'll see here that you can add a team to your roadmap or your roadmap account here. So this is a really great approach if you want to ensure that your account is organized and as well as simplifying the process when you're adding teams to a roadmap. Because you could, of course, if you're adding a roadmap with all your product team members, for example, you could individually add them. But if you do create a team within the account called the product team, you could easily just simply select the product team and all those individuals would be added there. So you'll see here, if you select add team at the top, it's a really easy process to add a team here. So if I just want to call this one project and I go to next, or let me call it project team, and then we'll go to next here. This is going to be your ability to add the users as well. So everyone within your account is going to show up here. So if I wanted to add, let's say, Barbara and Clark to my project team, it's a really easy process to do so. And now you'll see here that I have two individuals added to the project team. So instead of individually adding them on a roadmap, I can simply select the team. So definitely a really great approach to keep your account organized and simplify that process when you're adding these users to a roadmap. In addition to that, if we switch over to the company tab, and I'm going to cover a few of these, but not all of them here at the top of the account settings. You'll see here within the company tab here, you have the ability to add a company logo. So that's a really great approach in case you're utilizing, for example, the exporting option. You'd be able to show that throughout. You have a few more settings, such as setting up a password as well as SSO, depending on your license offer there. And then in addition to that, I'm going to switch over to the permissions here and just point out that this is specific towards the feedback and idea prioritization modules. So if you are utilizing those modules there, you'll see that you have a few different options on how you can manage the permissions for the users within your account. Couple more things here. You'll see at the top, there is an option to set up your security. You'd be able to set up an integration within the account. So this is a really great approach. If you plan to integrate with any of our integration options, you would simply add the integration to your account by selecting add an integration, select from one of our integration options, such as Asana, and then you just need to provide it with a name. So we might call this test Asana integration. And it's a really quick process. Now I just have to select create integration, and you'll see here that I have a new Asana test within my account here for the integration. And when you're creating a roadmap, you'd be able to integrate with your integration option that you just set up there. Last couple things, we do have the ability to see your billing option as well as any reports. So this is a really great approach. If you want to see any of your roadmap usage reports, you'd simply come here and you'd be able to see that. So now that I talked about, how to add a user, how to add a team and manage it, we're going to go on to just a little bit more details on what the difference between an owner, editor, and viewer have in terms of their permissions on not just a roadmap level, but you'll see here on the next slide, it also talks about on the portfolio level. So there's not that many differences between the two. And I'm just going to highlight a couple of things here. So firstly, in terms of an owner, so a collaborator and an account admin can have ownership access. And as I mentioned earlier, an account admin has ownership access on all roadmaps. So they're going to be able to delete or transfer ownership of other individuals' roadmaps because you're managing your team's account. A collaborator can be an owner on a roadmap that they've created. They can be added to somebody else's roadmap as editor, and they can also be added as a viewer on a roadmap. So that's a really great approach in case you have collaborators within your account. You'd like to add them to a roadmap, but you still want to give them that view only access. And then lastly, you'll see here with the view only access, that's where the reviewers are. So any reviewers within your account can be added as view only access. And you'll see here that they have the ability to visualize the roadmap and comment on the roadmap, but they're not going to be able to make any of those editing changes. So you'll have this slide for your reference to go over in a little more detail on what the different permissions are between these different roles, but those are just a couple of things I wanted to highlight. So with that said, I'm going to go into some detail on the three pillars of Roadmunk governance. So firstly, we're going to talk about account field standardization and management. So this is a really important process to do within your account. And it perhaps is one of the most important things that I highly recommend you actually do at the beginning to ensure that your team are using those standardized fields within the account. So how you would approach this is I'm going to switch back to Roadmunk here at the top. And you'll notice on the bottom left of the home screen here, you'll see the section of all fields. So you can see your field section. What I recommend doing is going to the account fields and then setting these up within your account. So when you create a new account field, it's going to show up within here. And these account fields are going to be those standardized fields that can be used across the account. That means when you're creating roadmaps, all your team members are going to be able to create a roadmap. And when they select a new field on a roadmap, these fields will populate because they've already been created as an account field, which means not only will the fields show up, but the values within it will show up as well. So if you go to the very top here, the plus account field button, you'll see this is how you can create that account field. We have a few different field types, and I'm going to walk you through each of them. So firstly, you'll see that there's a list field type, and this is the most commonly used one. This is a field type where you more so select from a list of values that you put within it. So for example, you might have value 1, 2, 3, and you would select one of those values here. Whereas a multi-select, this is when you're able to select more than one value. So if you have value 1, 2, 3, you might simply select 2 and 3 from that list here. A text field, this field is more so if you're looking to just provide a little more context. So think of it as an expanded description field that you could utilize. You won't be able to filter or format utilizing this text field, but it's a really good approach if you are looking to add some more details. Couple more fields we have here, or field types rather. You'll see that we have a number field, and I highly recommend selecting the number field and creating one within your account. Because for example, if I select the number field here, you'll see that there's a number format and I could select percentage, for example. And what's going to happen here when I create a number account field within my account is you'd be able to visualize that progress complete of those tasks. And you'll see when I go show you one of the roadmaps very shortly, what that percentage looks like. It's really nice to visualize on your roadmap. Lastly, we have a team members field, and this is a really good field to set up as well because you're able to assign responsibility of those tasks that you create within a roadmap to the different users on that roadmap as well. So if you create a project team, for example, and you've added that project team to your roadmap, and you do have a team members field, you could assign each of those members different tasks within the roadmap. And it's a great place to ensure that your team is collaborating successfully. So that's just one thing I wanted to point about these account fields. So highly recommend setting this up first because it's going to allow you to standardize the fields within your account and ensure that everyone is aligned on those same values as well. So on this slide here, or rather the next 3 slides, talk about how you can promote roadmap fields, how you can merge fields, and how you can favorite fields on the roadmap. So I'm going to go through all three of these concepts on Roadmunk itself, and I'll be able to show you these three different approaches on how you can manage these different fields. So as I mentioned, I'm going to go to one of my roadmaps, show you that number field, as well as we'll create a field together and go through some of those processes. So if I go to this marketing growth team and marketing roadmap here, firstly, you'll see that if you create a progress completed field, you can visualize that progress completed. So you can see that some of my tasks are 100% complete, some of my tasks 80%. And then you'll also see that I have some tasks that haven't started yet. Then you won't see any color code to it because it's 0% complete. So it's a really great place to visualize it, not just on this table view here, which we recently adjusted, but also you'll be able to visualize this data when you go to your timeline and swim lane view as well. So in terms of creating a field here, you'll see here at the top, there's a plus button. And if I select that, firstly, you'll notice that my favorite fields show up here. So the fields that I've favorited will show up within this tab here. So you can see my resources field. It's a favorite field of mine. You can see some of the account fields within my account. And then also if I had any roadmap fields. But what we're going to do here is we're going to create a new field. So we might call this task. Let's keep it as a list. And then to keep it simple, I'll call this task 1, task 2, and task 3. So now that we created a new field together, a list field, you'll see that it's been added to the all data page here. And in addition to that, so what happens here that I simply created a field on my roadmap is that's going to be a roadmap field. So the fields that I showed you earlier that are account fields are those standardized fields within the account. And that's how you're able to ensure that your teams are aligned when you're using these account fields. You'd be able to format, filter it accordingly, especially on a portfolio view, which we will look at later in the session together. However, this field that I just created, this task field, is a roadmap field. What that means is this field is only usable on the marketing, growth team, and marketing roadmap that we're currently looking at here. So that means that I'm not going to be able to align this data with any of the other roadmaps within my account. However, it's a really easy approach to turn this task field and promote it into an account field. So you'll see here that if I select the options button here, I can go to edit field. And now it's currently saying that this is a roadmap field. But if I select the more actions button on the bottom left of the card, I have a promote option here. And by promoting this, it's going to be adjusted. And now it's going to be an account field. So now if I go create a new roadmap, I'll be able to utilize this task field and see all these different task values as well. So that's definitely a really good approach in case you've created some roadmap level fields and you want to promote them to an account level field. All right. In addition to that, on the same item card, if you see that more actions button at the bottom left here, you have the option to merge fields. So I'm simply going to select merge and just kind of walk you through the purpose of merging fields here. So what you might utilize merging fields is in case you have a bunch of fields that have the same name to it. So they're the same type of field. So in case we've created a bunch of fields called task, a bunch of fields called owner, and you want there to be a standardized source of truth field, just one of those fields that are represented across your team, then what you can do is merge the fields into one. So this is a great approach in case you have 5 task fields, you could merge them into that source of truth task field. All you would do is select that field and then look for the field you're trying to merge it into. So for example, if you're looking to merge it into owner, you would simply select that one. You would go to continue, and then you would ensure that the values are mapped. So that task, that field that's being merged, task 1, is going to be represented for any of the options here that you select, as well as if the values that you are merging are not aligned with those values on the primary field there, you could create a field as well. So a really great approach if you're looking to do any data cleanup and ensure that you do have that source of truth field, that standardized account field that is going to be used across the account there. And then the last thing I wanted to talk about, so that favorite field option here. So what you'll do here, if you see tools marketing, if I select the menu button again, you'll see that I have the option to favorite the field. So if I select favorite field, for example, what's going to happen is this tools marketing field is now going to be a favorite field. And if I'm filtering the data, if I'm formatting the data, you'll be able to select that specific field accordingly. And I'll show you what that looks like if I go to my marketing timeline by theme here. So you'll see here, before I go into that, I just want to point out, as I mentioned before, if you use that progress completed field, you'll notice here that on the roadmap, this timeline view, you can see that percentage as well. So we can see that some tasks are 80% complete, some are 100% complete, and some have no percentage next to it, and that's because it's 0% complete. So definitely a very useful field to set up. But with that said, in terms of filtering and formatting, if you favorited a field, you'll see here if I click on the filter button on the top right, and add a filter, my favorite fields will show up first. So the fields that we just favorited, such as the tools field, that will be the first one of your first fields that show up. A really great approach in case you have 20 plus fields, let's say, for example, within your account, and you just want to ensure that the fields you can use more often are going to be the ones that are displayed there. So that covers those three concepts in terms of when you have these different fields, how you're able to promote those roadmap fields to an account field, how you can merge fields to do some data cleanup and ensure there is a source of truth, as well as favorite fields that you're going to be utilizing more often. So next, we're going to talk about roadmap naming conventions. So this is another important process that we highly recommend that you set up within your account to ensure that your team are using those standardized fields so that your roadmaps are going to be clearly aligned, and whether you're exporting the information to customers, stakeholders, or if you're simply sharing it with your team, everyone's going to understand exactly based on the name of your roadmap as well as those visualizations what data is going to be within it here. So you'll see within this example here that we have it sorted by department, team, and roadmap. And what this means is you're setting a naming convention on your team, agreeing on those processes that everyone's going to follow when they're naming their roadmaps. So you'll see here, if I go back to my roadmap, I called my roadmap marketing, growth team, and marketing roadmap. So this is a really useful, set of governance to follow, because if I'm going to export this data based on the name of the roadmap, it's going to be a little more clear what I'm trying to show here. In addition to that, and I'll go back to the slide real quick just to show you that this process is very much the same in terms of your visualizations. So you could simply create timeline and swim lane views and call them timeline or swim lane. But by doing that, it's going to be quite confusing when you're exporting this data, or if you're creating a portfolio roadmap, what is trying to be shown within that piece of data. So if we go back to Roadmunk, you'll see here that I have named this visualization marketing timeline by theme /owner. So I could have easily have just called this marketing timeline. And if I had multiple timelines, it would be pretty confusing what I'm trying to show here. But by naming it a little more clearly by theme and owner, it's clear that I have a header set up as theme and my subheader is owner, and that's the information I'm trying to show to my stakeholders. So the more granular you get with your naming conventions, and of course, making sure that they're aligned across the team, the clearer it's going to be the information you're trying to display, regardless of whom you might be trying to show this to here. Which now brings us into custom template best practices. So we have recently introduced custom templates, and this is a really great approach to ensure that all those different tips and tricks we've been talking about so far in terms of following account fields and naming conventions, that you put those best practices into a custom template so that you have a foundation built for your team. What I mean by this, if we go back to the roadmap one more time here, what I can do with this roadmap, now that we have all of our data set up, so on that all data page here, we have all of our content, we have visualizations set up, such as that marketing timeline by theme I showed you. And also, we have filtering set up, we have it all formatted. So now what we can do, Next to all data on the left side, you'll see there's a settings button. I can now duplicate this as a template. So now what's happening here is this roadmap that we just created together, I'm going to be able to make it into a template. So now what's going to happen when I create this is it's going to go into the account templates within the Roadmunk account. And your team is going to be able to start with this foundation rather than having to create their own roadmaps from scratch. So if we go back to the main page and we go to the templates on the left-hand side of the page here, you'll see that that marketing, growth team, and marketing roadmap is within our account templates. By selecting this, you can see here that we have all that information from the all data page. Our visualizations have already been set up here. And this is a great approach. If you go to the top and say, use this template, your team can use all the data that you've already stored in here. So they don't have to create any aspects of this roadmap here. It's already been set up for them. Or they can start empty and input their own data, but already have that foundation set up. So if you've already, followed these best practices with creating all these account fields, naming conventions, and then of course you've created a very, that source of truth roadmap that you want your team to work off of, this is how you would approach that. You would create this custom template, set them up with a foundation, and they would be able to make the necessary adjustments and work off of this one. So now that I showed you, custom template buildings, I'm going to talk a little bit more about portfolio road mapping and how if you follow all these best practices, it's going to ensure that portfolio road mapping goes very smoothly for you and your team, especially when we talk about those custom templates. If everybody is utilizing those custom templates, because the best practices were already utilized within custom templates, it'll be very easy for you to create a portfolio roadmap, select your sourced data, and then, of course, format and filter accordingly. So if we go back to Roadmunk here, and we go to one of my portfolios here on the left-hand corner, we're just going to go to the IT and marketing team synced. So you'll see here that I have a bunch of data on this page. And when you first create a portfolio road mapping, it's going to ask you on the top right-hand corner, what roadmaps would you like to bring into a portfolio? So you'll see here that I have the IT roadmap and the marketing roadmap. Those are the ones that I've selected. I've utilized naming conventions, so it's very clear what data is within these roadmaps. In addition to that, if I go to the data itself, so instead of selecting all data, I could select any of those individual views as well. So I don't have to bring all the data in. I could select a specific view. And that's another reason why naming conventions is very important, because I can easily tell by looking at this what piece of data I might want to bring in, such as the marketing timeline by theme and owner. You can see within my account here, I have many examples of bad naming conventions I like to always show. So you can see here that I have some called just roadmap, practice, new roadmap. This is kind of what's going to happen if you're not following naming conventions. You're going to have some vague roadmaps within your account. And as you're looking to select them to bring into a portfolio, it can be quite challenging to understand what data is within it if you're not following those naming conventions. So that's why it's a really great approach to ensure you're utilizing naming conventions to make sure that your portfolio road mapping goes very smoothly. And of course, when you export this information, those individuals will know the data you're trying to represent on that view there. So now that we have a portfolio set up, what we want to do is format this information. So if we go to the Format tab on the top right, you'll see here that we need to give it a header and subheader, just as we did on a roadmap level. And by utilizing account fields and having commonly used fields, we're going to be able to align these two projects together and be able to filter the data out accordingly and just show that granular piece of information we'd like to visualize here. So I'm going to give it a header here, and we're going to select, let's go with our owner. So now we want to see what each individual is working on. Let's give it a subheader here as phase. So now, based on this, you'll notice on our roadmap, we have it organized by which each individual is working on it. So we can see here, we have owner, Omar being used, Maria, so on and so forth, as well as we can see the progress of each individual's task. So whether it's in the backlog, in progress, and completed. in case you're creating a portfolio roadmap and you still want to kind of get some visualization of what source roadmap is being used, this is a great opportunity to go back to that format tab, switch from layout to colors, and then color it by your roadmap source. So what's going to happen here, if we go back to this page, you'll notice that we have two different colors on our roadmaps. We have green and red. And if you go to that legend on the right side of the page, you'll see here that the color scheme is going to tell you what roadmap it came from. So this is a really great approach if you want to see whether your data came from the marketing roadmap or the IT roadmap. In addition to that, because you're using those commonly used fields, if you're looking to filter out certain pieces of information, you could simply add a filter. You could select one of your fields you might be using. So let's say you're just curious to look at one field, one of your phases. Let's say what's in progress, and we update this. You'll notice here that we can just visualize that piece of information across multiple roadmaps. So filtering is even stronger, of course, when you're using a portfolio because you're having much larger sets of data. So filtering out that information that's commonly used fields is going to ensure that you can see how all those roadmaps align together. So that kind of summarizes what I wanted to talk to you today on the account admin training, talking about how to add and manage users, those three pillars of governance, ensuring that your team is set up for success. And of course, getting into a little more detail on portfolio road mapping and showing you that if you followed all these steps, utilizing these best practices, you'll be able to ensure the greatest success for your team.
So in the next slide, we've got a couple of resources that will help you on where to go from here. So we've got a lot of great learning resources that you can access after today's session. And like I mentioned, do keep an eye out for our events page. It has all the recordings from previous sessions. You'll see also a link here for our roadmap that highlights any of our updates, features, and more things happening in our products. So again, keep an eye out for that one. And I think we are good to move on to some of the questions. And we have a few coming in as we speak. So Cody, is there a way to export the user list and roles to an Excel or any other format?
So in terms of the user list, in terms of managing users within the account settings?
I believe that's the question, yes.
Okay, so you're able to import users within the account settings. So this is a great approach in case you have a CSV file and you want to bulk add users, but there's no export function.
Okay, good to know.
I'm just going to jump in here. There is a way to export the user list and roles to Excel if you happen to have reports attached to your account. All right, so within account settings, over on this last tab is reports. Okay, here is where you can download a CSV of the usage report. So it includes the owners and the member names, with the roadmaps that they own, a field usage. So this is really good to audit the fields that are within Roadmunk, and then a user report. So I believe that is what the person who's asked the question is pertaining to. You can download a CSV with the account users, the authentication methods they use, and their last login dates. If you don't see this tab on your account settings within Roadmunk, contact your support team and they can add it on in the back end, okay?
Okay, another question that we got, and I think Cody, you can grab the screen share again.
So a reviewer is not going to be able to utilize the custom template because they're not able to create roadmaps or edit roadmaps here. But you'll see here, if we go to one of my roadmaps, let's go back to that marketing roadmap we've been looking at. You'll see in the top button here, you'll see that you can allow viewers to duplicate the roadmap here. And this will give an individual access to look at the roadmap here, but a reviewer is not going to be able to do so. So in case you want to give somebody the access to duplicate the roadmap, on that viewing side, as a collaborator, they can do it, but a reviewer's license only has the ability to be added to roadmaps to visualize it and comment on it.
Okay. Another question, can you have a portfolio set up with multiple portfolios as its source?
Excellent question. So we have two layers. So there's going to be your roadmap layer and portfolio level. There's not three layers to that. So you're not going to be able to do a portfolio of multiple portfolios. So in case you are looking to go that approach, just kind of keep note that you're going to be able to create a portfolio based on your source roadmaps, but not an additional layer.
Okay. Another question, and some of these are more specific to certain situations and certain setups for some of you, but we've got a couple minutes to go, so we can definitely go through them. Can you set up your company's fiscal year dates and quarters so that you don't have to input those dates every single time on a Roadmunk item or a roadmap item, I'm assuming?
So in case you're looking to add a roadmap, you'll see here that you can select that facial year end when you are creating a roadmap, and that'll give you the option to select when that year is ended. In addition to that, if I go to the marketing roadmap we've been looking at, let's go to one of our visualizations, so the marketing timeline. You'll see here, if you go to the format tab, you have the option to switch over to dates. And this will give you the option to select what piece of information you'd like to show. So if you're starting going back to 2020, you can show that. If you're looking into the future, 2023, 2024, you could select that as your end date as well. And you can lock those timeline dates too.
Okay, awesome. All right. And we did have another question. I believe it was answered in the chat, but I believe it's also relevant. So let's go ahead and answer it. Is the percentage that shows in progress completed field synced with the phase field? In other words, once the progress completed is 100%, will it show completed for the phase? Are they linked somehow?
Absolutely. So those are two separate fields that I have set up. You'll see that I have a phase field set up, which is a list field, and progress completed, which is that number field that I was talking about that I highly recommend setting up. So this is a manual process. So for example, if I have changed progress completed to 100% and I type that in, I would switch over to the phase field. And in addition to that, I would point out that it is now completed. So that's a manual process to go through.
Okay, awesome. So it is manual. They're not linked together. Can I have more than one view on a portfolio roadmap?
Excellent question. So with a portfolio roadmap, you can only have one view. And if we go back to our main page here, if you click on plus roadmap on the top right and select new portfolio, it's going to ask you which visualization type you would like. So you have to have either a source of truth timeline view or the source of truth swim lane view. It's just going to be that one view. In case you are looking to have one of each, you would just simply create a first portfolio that's a timeline view or a swim lane, and then vice versa.
Okay. I have a question here. It may be missing a part, but we'll answer it at that value. Can I use linked items to link items on other roadmaps, or only the roadmap that I'm working on?
So you can definitely link items across roadmaps. So you'll notice here, if I select blog launch, for example, if I go to linked items on this card here and I add it, what's going to happen first is it's going to ask you, which of those linked items on this roadmap would you like to link it to by default? However, if I select the marketing growth team and marketing roadmap at the top here, it will ask me from which roadmap I'd like to link it to. So I can easily select one of my other roadmaps here. So we might select the IT roadmap, and I can easily select one of my items such as vision. And I'm still able to select one of the linked item options, whether I want it to be relates to, moves with, and blocked by. And I could simply save it accordingly. In addition to that, when you are showing a portfolio roadmap, you'll be able to see that line relationship if you're utilizing the timeline visualization. So not only can you link it across roadmaps, but when you create a portfolio, you can see that relationship as well.
All right, awesome. Another question we just got, if you use subtasks and percentages, can those percentages roll up to the parent?
I'm not entirely sure I understand the question, but if we're relating the fields again, such as progress completed with another field, they don't have a linked relationship. So if you are completing, the progress completed, it's not going to have an impact on the other fields.
Okay, we might get a clarification for that question. Another question, can you show what the linked relationships look like on a roadmap? How linked items look like on a roadmap?
Absolutely. So if we go to that visualization here, you can see here, let me go to keyword optimization, that there is a link between the setup dashboard and keyword optimization. And you can also see the line relationship. So if you go to the legend that's here on the right side of the page, and I select this, it's going to tell you what that line relationship stands for. So if we hover back over keyword optimization, we can see it's a dash line, which on the legend tells us that those two items are blocking each other. And in this case, if I try and pull keyword optimization before the setup dashboard, the system's not going to let that happen because I created that dependency, whereas I need to complete setup dashboard before I can start keyword optimization.
All right, and yet another question. Can a portfolio roadmap have its sources edited by two different users? We face an issue where only the portfolio roadmap creator can alter the sources.
So I have Cheryl here who might be able to just kind of confirm this, but I believe as long as each of the individuals have access to the source roadmap, so if they had access to this marketing roadmap we're looking at and the IT roadmap, if they're added to a portfolio roadmap, they would all be able to edit that.
With the portfolio roadmap, the owner of the portfolio roadmap can make changes to the portfolio, which will reflect on the source roadmaps as long as they are part of those source roadmaps. But nobody else can make a change at the portfolio roadmap level. If the owners of the source roadmaps make changes on the source roadmaps, they will reflect on the portfolio level, but only the owner of a portfolio can make a change at that level.
Thank you for clarifying.
Thank you. And then I have a follow-up to a question that you just answered around linked items. What if the linked item is from another roadmap? How would that be visualized? Can you link from other roadmaps, and what would that look like?
Absolutely. So let's go to our portfolio here. So we can see that we have our items from our two different roadmaps. You'll see on that legend here that we can see that there are two different roadmaps based on the color code. So ebook writing, for example, and redundancy. These two items we could connect with each other and kind of show that relationship as they're on two different roadmaps. So for example, if I select here, add a linked item, I believe it was ebook writing number 1. Let me just double check that. All right. And now that we created a relationship there, I'm just going to update the card. And you'll see here that they've both been updated on this portfolio. So we can see that one there to show a relationship. We can see that dotted line to show the connection. And it tells us that those two items are related to each other. So you can definitely show a relationship across roadmaps on the portfolio.
Okay, we have another question. It might be, again, missing a part, but we'll go ahead and see if we can answer it. When I move an item on a timeline, the dates constantly change. Is that normal?
If you are moving the dates on the visualization, that is going to have an impact on the dates. we do have a really useful tip in case you're trying to move it, across the different headers, for example. So if you hold that shift button on your computer and you grab an item such as application portfolio, you can see that I can move it around within the header here. So if I want to make it go down all the way to Carly, I can move that. And now the application portfolio is going to be within Carly's task. However, I didn't make any adjustments to the dates simply by holding the shift button and then moving that item around.
And I do have one more question, and then I think we will give everyone some time to answer the survey. Last question, or second to last question. Can I show weeks on the roadmap?
Yes, so you are able to show weeks. Let's go back to our roadmap here. So you'll see within that format tab, if you switch from layout to dates here, you can see that on the bottom, we have a week setting, and you're able to select that, turn that on there. So that's going to allow you to show it by weeks rather than showing it by months, quarters, halves, or years, and that'll be adjusted here at the top.
And just to jump in there, that's totally correct. With the week setting, your total length of a roadmap has to be less than 2 years in order to be able to use that week setting. So if it's a 3-year roadmap, you won't be able to separate that into weeks, only months, quarters, halves, or years. But if it is 2 years or less, that's when you can use the weeks function.
All right, awesome. And definitely our last question. Can I track who has made changes to roadmaps or who's made changes to items? Is there a record?
Yes, so if you go to one of our items here, such as setup dashboard, you'll see here that on our tab here, we have a fields tab and an activity tab. If you switch over to activity, this is going to let you know if there's been any adjustments to that item here. So this is a really great approach to monitor, to see if there's been any changes to the fields, if someone's trying to get in contact with you, such as commenting on it. Those adjustments will show here within the activity tab.
All right, amazing. Thank you, Cody. Thank you everyone again for attending, and have a great rest of your day.